It is time, ladies and gentlemen, for championship week in college basketball, the conference tournaments. Welcome into the Sporting News Studios. I'm Tom Vandervoort. Joining me now, Ryan Fagan, our college basketball writer. And Ryan, let's talk about the SEC tournament, because we've been on Bubble Watch here for about a week or so, and this seems to be like Bubble Watch HQ. As I look at this tournament, teams with stuff to prove. I'm thinking of Tennessee. I'm thinking of Kentucky. I'm thinking of Ole Miss, and maybe even Alabama. So how do these teams break down in your mind?
The common theme with these teams is they didn't do much in the non-conference portion of the schedule. They've played okay, well at times in the SEC play. They all have losses that they're not very proud of. And at this time, they have to not only win games, but play well. And it's not just beating teams, it's beating quality teams. It's trying to add quality victories to a tournament resume. And aside from Missouri and Florida, there aren't a whole lot of those opportunities available.
Well, that's very true, and in that sense, maybe Ole Miss has a little bit of an advantage because they have a good setup, if you look at the bracket, to meet those teams.
Yeah, they could possibly play Missouri in the quarterfinal, and that would be another big win. That would give them 2 wins over the Tigers this year. Missouri is pretty solidly in. They're probably going to fall in that 8-9 range as far as seeding for the tournament. But that would be a quality victory that Ole Miss desperately needs, especially after losing those late games at South Carolina and at Mississippi State. And even that one win might not be enough, probably won't be enough. Okay,
now let's look at the UPS Team Performance Index, which we use here at Sporting News. And Kentucky's a really interesting team because of the 3 or 4 teams that we mentioned here, they have the best offense on the TPI, they have the best defense on the TPI, they have the best overall index on the TPI, but they finished off the year kind of struggling until they beat Florida in the finale. So how do you think the committee's looking at Kentucky right now?
The funny thing is about Kentucky is after Nerlens Noel went out with his knee injury, the Wildcats played their best against the best teams, and they lost to the bad teams, which is kind of a, they beat Florida, they beat Missouri, which are things they had to do. The loss at Tennessee, you can kind of throw that out a little bit because it was the first game after Noel was injured, and Kentucky just looked like they had no clue what was going on. But the wins against Missouri and Florida without Nerlens Noel, that shows the committee that the team as it is now is still a quality team and can beat other quality teams. And they can also lose to teams like Georgia, though. So they're still very much on that bubble.
Another interesting case when you look at the TPI is the Tennessee Volunteers. They're the team here with the biggest discrepancy between their RPI, which is 54, and their TPI, which is 105. But they did finish the year 8-1. They beat Kentucky, they beat Florida, they beat Missouri. They did lose that game to Georgia, which was the one loss in that stretch. How do you see Tennessee as a basketball team?
Well, we actually are talking about them now, which is not something we would have done 2 months ago. The Volunteers have played their way back onto the bubble. The win against Florida was huge. Obviously, pulling out the win against Missouri was big. They've looked like a tournament team. If we're talking about the eye test, Jordan McRae has stepped up. He's been the SEC's best player, quite frankly, over the last 4 or 5 weeks. He's made them a tournament-type team, but there's still a lot of work for Tennessee to do because they're still very much on the bubble.
Okay, so if we look at these bubble teams, if you had to say, how many do you think will get in, which do you think it'll be?
I think Kentucky still probably has the best chance right now to get in of those 3 teams. It's possible that the SEC could get 4. There's no way all 3 of those bubble teams from the SEC get in just because there aren't enough at-large spots. And they really haven't done enough. I know the committee has to take 37 at-larges, but I don't think there's any way all 3 of them get in.
All right, there you go. Ryan Fagan, I'm Tom Vandervoort. Thanks so much for watching.